Well, I think it's I
I
think
did.
it's oh, you did. Oh, I think I had something covering the screen. Okay, well, that's helpful to know. Jim, I'm thrilled to have you today. I don't know if I had a chance to tell you this, but you are the inspiration for today. Um, when I heard about your book, Technology for Good, I just thought it seemed like a really good opportunity to open up a broader conversation today around technology for good and what that means. And you mentioned just now, I actually had a conversation around like learning disabilities earlier today, and um, I think that on some level, at least in the LinkedIn world that I kind of reside in, there's a lot of demonization of technology, which fair enough. There's a lot
Hmm.
to demonize. Like I don't like nobody gets off scot-free with me on this topic. But I think that there's also, plenty of people that are doing good things and good opportunities. And um, actually, here before, because I feel like I do want you to respond to that,
Yeah.
but I want to ask you. I started my last conversation about a question for a survey that I actually ended up running on LinkedIn. And the question is, what is the real reason we don't have more AI for good? There's four options. Number one, can't monetize quickly enough. Two, nobody actually cares. Three, wrong people making decisions. And four, we pretend it's too complex. I guess my question to you is, what is your opinion and what do you think how do you think people voted?
None of the above.
Okay. Oh, okay, let's go with it. What do you
I mean,
think?
the thing that people don't know is that almost all the big AI advances in the last 50 years were developed first for people with disabilities. The first applications were either military or helping people with disabilities. Character recognition, reading machines to the blind, voice synthesis, reading to the blind, or giving someone who's lost a voice. All the things that we take for granted that we used to call AI, like talking to Siri, those technologies were all developed first for people with disabilities. They were kind of expensive, and
Yeah.
then as they fell in price, as things do in the tech field, then we all get the benefit of them. But people don't know that.
I didn't know that honestly.
Yeah.
I'm like maybe I did my research was kind of terrible, but like oh that's fantastic. I mean, not for a tech for good standpoint, but not say for work, but like video technology, a lot of internet technology. I mean, wasn't Google image search? I mean, this is I wouldn't go as far as tech for good, but like I mean, wasn't that I read somewhere that that was something about the J-Lo VMA dress or something like that. It's so ridiculous. But tech comes out from all these weird places.
Yeah, and of course, one of the jokes in the AI field, actually, the guy who coined the term complained that as soon as it starts working, we stop calling it AI. And so, what we're calling AI right now is Gen AI, the latest version of AI, but it's a moving target. No one calls Siri AI,
Yeah.
but boy, 15 years ago we all did.
Well, it's funny. I mean, and I think a little bit of the demonization as well is people utilizing it to write, just fully like, full baked ideas and posting it, not even like editing anything. But I always find like this demonization of technology for me personally kind of odd because I'm like, I'm seeing this comment on LinkedIn, on my device, at home. I mean, there's just so many. It's like there's the internet, there's Wi-Fi, there's the computer, there's blah 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 blah. I'm like, what version? To your point, what version are we talking about here?
Yeah,
Which,
and I'm not going to be defending surveillance capitalism. It's creepy as hell.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Well, here, this is a perfect transition into. So here today, we're actually here talking to Jim Fruchterman. We're having conversation in a larger Tech for Good series. This conversation specifically is about nonprofits and AI and building technology that serves humanity. Jim Fruchterman is a MacArthur Fellow, CalTech-trained physicist, founder of multiple tech nonprofits. He spent 30 plus years moving from for profit AI to social impact and is the author of Technology for Good: How Nonprofit Leaders Are Using Software and Data to Solve Our Most Pressing Problems. Um, oh, yeah, yeah. Absolutely promote.
Yeah.
No, it's a great book. I had a chance to get a sneak peek of it. So I haven't finished it all, but it's been very interesting. Um, so why? Okay, so I actually had somebody. I want to interject like a interesting comment that somebody said
Mhm.
around like opting into AI from this mindset. So I guess I'd like you to start though. Why should nonprofits lead AI development or at least have a foot in the door?
Well, I mean, right now, the nonprofit world, like a lot of the world, is going through a very difficult and challenging time. And the problems of the world aren't going away, even if the money is greatly decreasing, whether that's money from government or from philanthropy. And one of the few ways I know how to do a lot more with less money is technology.
Yeah.
And, AI smartly applied, ethically applied, can make an amazing impact on huge amounts of the nonprofit sector.
Right.
And not in terms of like getting rid of people. I'm not a big fan of that part. But, what is the task that is drudgery and can have you doing more of what, turns you on, lights you up, and less of this. And for a lot of people, that's stuff like data entry. No
Yeah.
one ever whined about having to do less data entry. So, and in disability, if you need a human to help you and humans don't want to help you, or you don't have the money to pay them to help you, if you have a tech tool that does what a human can do pretty well, you're likely to be pretty excited about that. And that's, of course, that's what got me into Tech for Good, was applying technology, AI, to the needs of people with disabilities. And my venture capitalists were less enthused.
Oh, I love it. That's okay. We don't have to make everybody happy. But you know what? You mentioned so many good points here because I remember when first the voice to text technology
Hmm.
actually started coming out, and I forgot there was a company that was like selling these services, and now it's just available everywhere on our phones, voice memos and everything. There, like think about all the companies also that now have come out of that technology of just making somebody that potentially wasn't able to, for whatever reason, actually type something out, or they were able to dictate it. And now we have however many of these note takers and everything that are making our lives so much easier. And I, for one, am like here for it and I love it all day long. I think you can get an idea, concept, whatever. And it just has made my life significantly easier. Can I act? But here, let me. I realize I'm slightly non sequitur. What did your venture capital guys say about your initiatives here?
Well, we had raised a lot of money to start an early for-profit AI company in Silicon Valley. And to do that, we had to promise them, hundreds of millions of dollars of return that you're going to get for investing in our company. And so we had a product, it was selling, but we had a side project of making a reading machine for the blind. We showed it to our board. They said, okay, great, the demo worked. You scanned a page, it read it aloud. Excellent. Jim, how big is the market for reading machines for the blind? And I said, we think it's about $1 million a year. And they went, and the connection to our $25 million we've invested so far is what? They vetoed it on the spot for excellent business reasons. I mean, I thought it was the coolest application of our technology, but it definitely wasn't the most lucrative. And this gap between what's possible with tech and what makes a unicorn, makes someone billions of dollars, that gap is huge. So there's all these great things we could be doing with technology that a VC would not invest in but 90% of humanity and the planet, probably a VC wouldn't invest in.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Um, uh, on LinkedIn, and actually she's in the live chat, Louise Graham, she actually made me think a lot differently about just how like technology and like, just intent kind of plays in. So, LinkedIn actually recently at the beginning of November, they kind of opted everybody into having them and their actions on LinkedIn actually train their AI models. And I was like, I don't know what I
Ick.
feel like about this. You're having the same reaction I first said. Fair enough. So, but here, let me share. So, Louise actually shared a really good thought. She's like, here's my thoughts. When system thinkers, ethics minded strategists, and social change leaders opt out, the balance tilts towards commercial and extractive narratives. I write about social systems and change and questioning the status quo. So if AI trains that, I'm all in. And I feel like when you think about AI from like a mindset of like, okay, like, so hey, you like your partners and everything. It's like let's extract, value, money, whatnot. But there's also like the I don't know what the opposite of extractive is, but it's like the implementation of good can also have I mean, maybe it's not a dollar amount, maybe it's not $25 million like in somebody's bank account, but like there is a value there. You just have to quantify it a little bit differently and it's relevant.
Well, and there are lots of AI companies that I would actually think using my data is good because I feel like I'm getting the good side of this bargain. And there are a lot of I joke, a lot of people, set out to do good, right? Make a good company. Then they did evil by accident. And then they figured out that evil by accident makes a lot of money and they doubled down on evil. And I mean, Meta, Facebook, that's pretty much, I think that's my interpretation of their path and how they've used our data against us. I work a lot with kids. They
Yeah.
certainly, if they had a choice between child safety or make more money, they almost always chose make more money. But so I think that, being intentional, getting back to your original point, what's the intent of using the data? If it's
Yeah.
to make our lives better, sign me up. If it's, figure out how to extract the last dime out of my pocketbook, maybe not.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, so like, so I do have some questions on this. So what happens if nonprofits don't step into this role?
Well, for one thing, the data that we're training the AI on is not very um, representative of society as a whole to the point of your commenter, right?
Yeah.
If everyone's opting out, but it's not that they're opting out, it's that the for-profit world doesn't care about 90% of humanity, right? So if I mean I talk all the time to African leaders about they ask, the Gen AI something about their country and it gets it wrong. That's because, the companies don't care about Africa. So the fact that they're getting it wrong isn't something they're bothering to fix. And so I think the nonprofits tend to have data that's much more representative, have a lot more data on brown people and people who don't speak English as their first language. And so I think this is a law where the nonprofit sector can come in and say, no, these languages are important. There's millions of people that speak this language, but they're just not wealthy people. We don't care. We still want to solve their problems. We want to make sure that the AI reflects their needs. And so that's where I think the exciting thing is that nonprofits are about people first
Right.
as opposed to profits first.
Yeah.
And they can afford to make decisions that a lot of for-profits can't.
I really like that mindset. They can afford to make decisions that a lot of for-profits can't. And let me ask you this. I forgot if this is like part of my outline, but what is, I've heard in the past that nonprofits sometimes uh, act in a, how do I say, act in a place where it's actually like the government, in theory, should, based on somebody's benchmark and everything, should actually be operating. So where do you make the distinction between like the nonprofit role and the governmental role?
Well, it depends on your country, right? In Europe, there are fewer nonprofits doing the things that in the US nonprofits do because there in Europe, the government does a lot of these things. And in the US, we tend to outsource this stuff to the nonprofit sector. And, you know, they have pros and cons. I mean, I think the social safety net is more complete in wealthy European countries than it is in the US. And of course, being an American and being kind of, innovation oriented, I often think that the nonprofit sector is where we're experimenting with things that might end up influencing government programs. I mean, I came up with some technology for people with disabilities. Surprise, it's the ebook. And we could deliver an ebook to a disabled person, a blind person, a dyslexic person, for 1/50th of the cost, just 2% of the cost of delivering an audio cassette tape through the mail, which 15 years ago, they were still shipping audio cassette tapes through the mail. And eventually we got a shot at convincing the government, hey, you can spend less money and do 5 times more. And they took that bet. And believe it or not, even today, they're still paying for that service because it's incredibly cost effective. And at the moment, educating kids with disabilities seems to be popular with people along the entire political spectrum, or at least, let's say 90% of it.
Yeah. I've read and I've seen also the AI models ultimately kind of replicate human biases. So, like, when you're like, so I'm not completely sure what my question is, but I feel like we need to comment on that in some, and I feel like you might have a perspective, and I'm not sure how to, like, does it exacerbate like the issues, or is it an opportunity for these nonprofits to kind of rein them in a little bit and like drive a different narrative.
Oh, I mean, the bias is totally real and it's not hard to find. I mean, ask these things for a picture of a judge and you're going to get a white male. Ask for a picture of a doctor, you're going to get a white male. Ask for a picture of a fast food worker, you're going to get a brown person, even though the majority of fast food workers are not brown, right? So why is that? Because that's what's on the internet
Yeah.
and that's what it's being trained on. So all the society's biases are in there. And when it comes to things like recruiting and HR, I mean, I mean, over and over again, the HR systems discriminate against anyone who doesn't look like me, or especially a 20-year younger version of me. And so this is a real challenge. And the nonprofit sector actually has the ability to tip the scales back, but rather than 10 companies that each have data on a billion people, you've got a million nonprofits that have data on a billion people. So it's hard to aggregate that data. But I think that one of the things that nonprofits will do when they deploy an AI solution is they'll test it for biases. You don't want to telling the smart brown kid that he should become a janitor, and the smart white kid that they should become a professor or a doctor. You want them to tell all smart kids that
Yeah.
they have these options, right? So that's what we have to work on, is making sure that we aren't just solidifying society's biases in the AI systems, because right now that's the status quo.
Absolutely. And what would you, I mean, the biases that probably being like the biggest part of it, like what for nonprofits, what do you feel like were like the biggest watchouts for them implementing AI in their systems, like at least today?
Well, the biggest one is don't feed confidential client data into a commercial AI product where they're going to train on the data. It's unethical. It's probably illegal in a lot of parts of the nonprofit sector, especially like medical things. But people are
Absolutely.
doing stuff like this because they don't connect the dots, and the tech industry makes it so easy to just feed all your crown jewels into the maw of their machine, right? So that's one. I think that in a case, I'm a huge AI enthusiast, right? But I have to say, AI makes mistakes, and people go, "It does?" It's like,
Oh
no,
God.
it always makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And they went, "Oh." So they said, "So you mean so I just shouldn't like accept everything that comes out of it as truth?" Like, nope. And so I have to walk them through, okay, you've just saved all this time. Now you have to correct the errors it did. If you spend more time correcting the errors than the time you saved, not a great use of AI.
Yeah, yeah. You still have to know how to use it. Absolutely. Are there any organizations right now that you're at least aware of that you're like, oh, they're doing it really well?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of them who have a lot of great content, have managed to train the AI or tell the AI, base your answers on all this great content. And so I'll give you a couple examples. There's a group called Mom Connect in South Africa that has been the leading way that pregnant women or women who have a new baby go and get their questions answered for free. And traditionally, it's been done by a health educator, someone who actually knows their stuff around about maternal health. Now, maybe half of the questions get answered by a chatbot because it's been trained
Right.
to say, hey, if they ask this question, here's the canned answer. It's been vetted. It's been translated into 10 languages because South Africa has a lot of languages. And it works, right? And then, but a woman who shows up with like three complicated questions, you hand that over to the human because you want to figure out quickly, is one of those issues something that she needs to go to the clinic right now about? And I wouldn't necessarily depend on AI to always get life and death decisions right. So I think they're doing a great job. There's something called Farmer Chat, trained on 10,000 videos of advice given to farmers in Africa and India. And you ask a question, and it's going to show you a little video answering your question with a farmer like you, speaking your language, showing you, oh, here's how to solve that fungus problem or terrace that hillside or whatever the thing is that you asked about. So, and this goes by the jargon term of RAG.
Oh,
Um, yeah, retrieval augmented generation is the nerdy term. But because the job of generative AI is to make up shit, and when it does, that's what it's like working as
yeah.
expected.
I love
But
that you
but
say makeup shit. I'm like, can we just have it like look up and validate and cite shit?
yeah, and so what you do is if you've got like in the case of Mount Connect, 5,000 question and answer pairs, you can basically say, hey, ChatGPT or your favorite product here. When you're answering this question, pretend you're the person who wrote those 5,000 answers to those 5,000 questions. And suddenly the guardrails against saying something stupid very convincingly have gone way up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to tell you the horrible example. I mean, because is the National Eating Disorders Association
Oh, what
fired all
happened?
their human counselors, and put on Tessa, the AI weight disorder chatbot. And Tessa was caught 3 days into Tessa's reign to replace all the humans, telling people to count calories, which is the exact opposite of what you should tell
Oh
someone who has an
no.
eating disorder, right?
Yeah.
And of course, but if you've trained your chatbot on the average of the internet, don't be surprised if the advice it gives is the exact wrong advice. And of course, the National Eating Disorders Association had to take down Tessa because it was broken, and they'd fired all the humans, and now there's nothing. And it's like, don't be like them.
Okay. Like, okay. I was like, let's talk about practical frameworks for ethical AI. Like this, like here you go. Here's one of them. It's like let's start small. Let's make sure it works for the easy stuff before we go into the big stuff. I feel like that seemed like a bit of a nuclear option.
Well, and I think nonprofits want to do the right thing, but the average nonprofit's not very technical. And so I think that, and the tech industry sometimes will tell them to do the wrong thing. I see this all the time as people like manage to do a lot of damage with tools that are doing unethical things, but the nonprofit leader doesn't get that because they don't know enough about the technology to know what's happening. And so one of the things, and I'll pick this by analogy. 15 years ago, there were some scandals of nonprofits where employees of the nonprofit were abusing kids. And everyone went, oh, this is horrible. And so now, if you work with kids and you want to get a grant, every funder is going to say, so I want to see your child safeguarding policy. It's just like the ticket to be admitted into helping kids.
Yeah, we're
It's
not
being
even talking
responsible.
to you if you haven't even thought about this
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
you
absolutely
should
not.
you should be doing criminal background checks on people who work with your kids. There's a
Yeah.
standard set of things you have to do. Well, we need the same thing for data, right? And it doesn't have to be complex. It's like it's your data, it's not ours. We're using it primarily to help you in the community, not to line our own pockets. We won't sell your data to the surveillance capitalists.
Yeah.
If we do research, it's going to be for social good. We're going to anonymize your data, and we'll make a legally binding promise to these promises. And so we're right now we're testing this with a bunch of nonprofits. We call it the better deal for data as an alternative to the surveillance capital. All your data are belong to us.
Okay, so what does that look like? Because it's like I think like the easy version, in fact, is in fact all your data belongs to us like perpetually forever, and we can use it however we want. So
Yeah.
like, what does a different version look like? I don't think
Well,
we know it, what
Well, I
that
think
even
I think I, I
exists.
think I think I just reeled off 6 or 7 things that would get you 90% of the way there, right? Like what's it's like a data safeguarding policy, just like we'd have a child safeguarding policy. You're going to hold data on domestic violence survivors, kids in crisis. You're going to encrypt that data. You're going to keep it
Yeah.
safe. I mean, it's just basic stuff. And I think that I want to keep it at that level where your average nonprofit leader goes, well, sure, we'll do that. And then when and I think we're going to have more and more nonprofits sort of adopt this as the best practice. And then when a tech vendor comes along saying, "Oh yeah, our product like steals all the data that people enter into your confidential data entry screens," which and there are products that do that
Yeah.
today, right?
Yeah.
They just say, "Oh, I can't use you
Yeah.
because you steal my confidential data. I'll use these other guys over here that make something that doesn't steal our confidential data." And I think that's the only language that a lot of tech companies understand is it's required to do the business. Okay, we'll do the responsible thing. Or it's required because we have a law or regulation. Ha, well, we're not getting so many of those these days. So let's just apply to their pocketbook is if you're screwing me with my data, I don't want to buy your product anymore. Oh,
Yeah.
I've agreed not to do this thing. So of course I'm going to do the right thing because I now know what it is.
Do you think we're already behind the ball in terms of implementing some of, at least from a law regulation standpoint? Because, I mean, where my head actually goes is just initially early days, social media and everything. It's like laws, policy, governance, and everything is always a step behind because I don't think it knows where it's going. And I think that the people that are implementing, it's like, I don't know, it's like I have very low trust in a lot of things right now. So, uh, is like are there even any laws on the books right now or any sort of governments or like I
There
think okay
there
I actually
are.
there are okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you say one step behind, I'd say 5 steps behind,
Oh
right?
yeah, I
Right,
was
so it's
being
very
nice.
slow moving. But I mean, Europe actually has a privacy law with teeth, and called the general GDPR, whatever GDPR stands for. And California has like half of GDPR. We got worried about the data of kids in schools, and most states in the U.S. passed child data safety. You can't use the data of kids in school to sell them products. You're not
Oh, but you can
supposed.
still go hop on there, by the way, because Facebook just launched this thing where it's like, oh, now teens and children, like you can still set up your own like parent account, and I'm sure they'll sell that data though.
Yeah, they're doing an end around. But I mean, the thing is that today, embarrassment is more powerful than regulation just because regulation is 5 steps behind. I mean, when Facebook is like, yeah, we're going to make a chatbot that talks dirty with kids, and people went, you're what? And they went, oh, maybe that's not such a great idea, even though like they've been working on it for a year. So and there
Scrap
are,
that. Yeah.
yeah, scrap that. And who does that? It's journalists, it's influencers who say this is horrible, and then
Yeah.
the companies actually. So I don't know. I mean, I wish we had more teeth than just embarrass the hell out of them. But and sometimes embarrassing the hell out of them isn't enough. Their economic interest is so powerful. They'll go, no worries. Don't look over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at the AI overlord you should be worrying about that's going to kill us all in someday. That's what you should be regulating, not the bad stuff I'm doing today.
Yeah. Jim, I have a few questions in the chat. Let me here. Let me sidebar if anything. Like let's address some of these. Evelyn Bacco, most nonprofits struggle with tech adoption and underskilling. How do we find the balance to move forward ethically and with enthusiasm?
So I actually did a nonprofit AI treasure map last year. So if you search for, Fruchterman and should I be using AI for this, it shows up as a post. But the essence of the treasure map is the average nonprofit should not be building its own AI product. You should not be trying to like do
It's
AI.
expensive. It's very expensive
Yeah,
though. So
technically, it
how is
really
how is
cost some serious money.
yeah.
So the essence of the treasure map is wait for a product. Now, ChatGPT is a product, and people can be using ChatGPT to write better grant applications and all that kind of stuff. And as long as you look at the output, you're probably going to get some value out of it, as long as you catch the howlers that
Yeah.
ChatGPT will stick in there. And so waiting for products. When you have a product, it's affordable, you can get trained on it. The guardrails have been built in because customers are demanding it. Whether they're businesses or nonprofits, they all want the safeguards and that. And you can ask your peers, did this thing raise more money than it cost? Or did it tick off all of your donors and they never want to talk to you again because you sicked a robot on them? That's how we. But when we build it internally, then it takes like 100 times more money or 1,000 times more money, and it almost never works. I mean, your average restaurant, your average golf course, your average dentist should not be writing their own software, nor should your average nonprofit. Even though there are some people telling nonprofits, "Oh, drop everything and hire data scientists." Like, do you know what a data scientist costs?
Yeah, maybe we find one
Probably
that's
more
like
than your
already
annual budget.
independently wealthy that's like, okay, I'll do this. I'll volunteer my time. Yeah, I mean, and to your point, I think I know somebody that's looking into licensing some AI technology for what they're building. And if I recall correctly, it's a bit cost prohibitive for them. It's like $10,000 a month. So it's not inconsequential. Like that is, $10,000 is significant
That's
a
like a
month.
couple people
Yeah.
for your average nonprofit, or at least one for a well-heeled nonprofit. Yeah, I mean, it's like any. I mean, we're in the middle of a tech fad, and unlike blockchain, which hasn't found its footing in the nonprofit sector yet, generative AI is going to work. The fact that 80 or 90% of the big generative AI projects are failing, that's actually good news.
Oh, why do you think that? I like this perspective.
Because 99.99% of blockchain projects in the nonprofit sector failed. I'll take 80% failure rate any
It's
day.
like improvement. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
because we're
progress
talking
over
about
perfection.
inventing something new usually fails. And so what I tell nonprofit leaders is let your peers who happen to have a tech team, now we're talking about 1 or 2% of nonprofits, let them figure it out. Let the for-profit industry blow trillions of dollars on this and figure out what works and doesn't work. And then when they've built a product,
Yeah.
then you buy
We'll
that,
get the
and
cleaned up version.
$20 a month or
Yeah.
$50 a month is a lot better than $10,000 a month.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and here's another question. Actually, it's from Louise, who is Louise Graham, who is actually the original one of the comment that I mentioned at the top. I would like to ask about sense and meaning making using AI. All right, I would like to ask about sense and meaning making meaning making using AI. So not just nonprofits using AI to support service delivery, but at the social change strategy level for systems thinking and long-term social impact.
Okay, well, I hate to sort of observe this, but Gen AI tools are still dumb as bricks, right? And people are like, what? They seem so smart. It's like, yeah, the joke inside the tech industry. I think someone a very popular paper was called "Stochastic Parrots."
Oh,
Right?
I'm gonna
They've
have to
got
go look
all
that
this
up.
data, and they can fake empathy, they can fake understanding, but they also are tuned to be super convincing, and they often are wrong. So what you get is something that is more convincing than a human, well, often saying something that is 100% wrong, and it doesn't get that it's wrong, and it fakes it. So you say that's wrong, and then it says, oh, I'm sorry, I guess you're right, I'm wrong. And then it has something different. Well, that's because in all of its training, when someone tells you you're wrong, you're supposed to admit that you're wrong and then change your answer. So it's just doing that based on the statistics, but
Yeah.
it doesn't get it. And so when you say,
But this is charisma bias. It's like it's so charismatic that it like you're like, oh yeah, copy paste. Like let's take this and ship it.
but Louise's question is about sense and meaning making. Don't count on AI to do that for you, but it could be that an AI tool helps you find sense and meaning. So for example, let's imagine that I ask it to say, "Hey, I'm really confused by these two articles, in the New York Times. I really don't understand what it's saying." And it could give you an answer that actually is a better analysis of what's being said in that article than you will be able to do yourself, right? But you have to actually be able to discern when it gets it 100% wrong that it's also gotten it wrong. So I think that this is the challenge, is that by and large, a lot of the AI tools make smart people smarter, people who really understand what they're doing, makes them more effective, and it makes the person who doesn't really know what they're doing, it's like handing them a loaded gun and they shoot their foot off, right?
Oh, here, Louise clarified a little bit. She's like, I guess what she was trying to clarify, it's about taking human sense making and bringing it to the machine to elevate. So taking her sense and elevating it to another level.
Well, the data, let's assume that in the data, which is, a lot of articles, a lot of pirated books, a lot of news, or a lot of blogs, if there are ideas in there, especially popular ideas in there of people who've been thinking about this, and you get the prompt right, you could be surfacing some of those great ideas and helping, and a lot of what this RAG technology is, what we're telling the AI is, pretend that you are that smart person who wrote all these answers and frame your answer that way, which means that it will look at all the answers that that smart person provided. The challenge I find with the sort of generic AI is that it'll get stuff wrong, and it's also really good at bland, right?
Very good at bland. Yes.
And very well written pablum. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but that's not what I want to write. But if my job is to, I don't know, draft HR policies
Maybe it
or
works.
government proposals, bland might be what I'm going for. It's like horses for courses.
Yeah. Here, I have a good question actually from my outline, but so I would love to get your take on is there like a story that potentially comes to mind where like AI fundamentally changed the outcome of a nonprofit's mission? Like is like has is anybody like making it as like a strategy driving force, or is it like kind of a secondary character?
Well, I think what it does is it often takes a nonprofit's impact to the next level, right? So I was just on a nonprofit, panel with Jared Chung from Career Village, and they had the number one question and answer site for people asking questions about jobs. And this is really important for kids from and young people from lower income backgrounds, is because they don't have mentors like upper middle class kids tend to have. And so the idea is like, great, we can make available skill. They have 200,000 people answering these questions. And they have all this data. Well, they've trained an AI chatbot on that data that's a job coach.
No.
And again, the average young person can't afford a job coach, but here you get something that is, I think it's free. And that's their social mission. And so it hopped up, the ability to make an impact. I mean,
But and like the personalized applications and everything, that's amazing because in theory, I guess like what I'm getting from this is somebody can ask a personalized question and get a relatively personalized response based on like curated information from all these different inputs. And I think like this matters to them. It matters like it's not bland, it's specific, it's potentially actionable. It's, you know, it's been fed by like real people and real experiences in theory. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, and there's so many like cool applications of AI that actually like moves things forward. Now, I'll give you an example of something we do. We write software for 911 for kids in 20 countries. I mean, in the U.S., it's an 800 number, but most places it's a short code, and we're operating their contact center. And helplines are all about human to human contact. And there's always more demand for help than there are human counselors. What do the counselors hate to do? Data entry, right? And so we did a whole bunch of like non-AI tech that was just like streamlining data entry, and without AI, we got them 40% more efficient. What does that mean? Counselors get to spend 40% more time helping more kids. 40% more kids get helped. This is like dream for the nonprofit's mission. 40% more kids help the same staff. It's what the counselor goes into the counseling field to do, help
Yeah.
kids, not do
Yeah.
data entry. And now we're doing AI, and we're doing AI, Gen AI, but we're summarizing an hour-long text chat, right? Saves the counselor 8 to 10 minutes.
So much
It
time.
writes
Yeah.
a better summary than the average counselor does.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't make stuff up because you're telling it, I want you to summarize this. And it works as well in Zambia and Jamaica as it does in the US and New Zealand. And so this is, but I think what we're talking about is like, rather than using the off the shelf general purpose one, where like caveat emptor, who knows what you're going to get, you basically channel it into a specific application, feed it more knowledge, keep it from going nuts, and you actually get some productivity gains, and that in the nonprofit sector that translates towards more people help better for less money. Yay, let's do more of that.
You know, and I think that advice ultimately, like nonprofit or profit sector, I think like that tracks from in my perspective that it's like you can do more of the cool stuff. You can do more of the interesting stuff. You can do more of the part that like has an impact versus, I imagine some of these conversations previously before voice recording, before like you're saying, you're like having this, okay, let me write down something down. Okay, this is relevant. As opposed to like, I mean, even this conversation, I have the wonderful opportunity where I can just be fully present and speaking to you. But you know what's going to happen afterwards? Like, because I feel like I'm going to probably want to like share with people like a bit more about this conversation. I'm going to download the transcript. I'm going to say, all right, here's what some good points. All right, how do we share this message? How do we make sure more people know about this? And it makes everything so much easier. And I think I think to your points exactly, it's like do more of that and provide more value in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, this is this sort of larger debate, which is, is the AI a worker? Fire your workers, replace it with AI, or is the AI tool that makes your workers more effective? And yeah, I'm a big fan of the latter, right? Let's make
Yeah.
people more powerful, and that's going to generally help a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I mean, it's like every single person now, like in addition to, just the ease of technology period with our phones, it's like everybody now has a team of 5 people. In theory, you have to manage them,
Hmm.
but like there's still part of it. And let's be honest, I've never seen any end-to-end tool of AI that like works for everything. It's like it starts or like it puts a little bit of shine on it, but it's not fully complete. Like you still need to be the editor, you still need to be the art director, you still need to be the director of whatever that is and and where you're going with it and the application of it as well. Um, do you what was this? Do you think that, at least with what we have available right now, with like chat with, I mean, there's Market Team AI I'm using, there's Fixer, there's Phantom, I mean, there's a long, do you feel like like, with the accessibility of what things are available to,
Yeah.
did you feel like innovation at scale for nonprofits is here, or is it kind of like still future
No,
focused?
I think the turning point has been in the last few years, and I think the Gen AI craze, with its pros and cons, has been really good for the nonprofit sector. And what people aren't really tracking is how much the nonprofit sector is adopting technology, right? Because there's not a lot of win in the nonprofit sector to emphasizing how good you are at tech, right? It's not like business. But yet, in researching my book, the top award in the social entrepreneurship field, social innovation field, is a Skoll Award. And I looked at the last 5 years. 60% of them at least had tech teams under the hood that were essential to them delivering their product. Because, it's the same as, I don't know, Uber and, Airbnb are software companies that just happen to be in, taxis and in, lodging, right? It's
Hmm.
Kiva, the great microcredit group. That's a software company that lends money, right? It's the
No,
same thing across more and more of this sector. And now the fact that AI is like taking the popular imagination, now donors are a little bit more open to tech, to tech applications in the social good sector. The other thing, and this is the reality, is that the nonprofit sector is usually 10 or 15 years behind the times in the use of technology. That's
no.
because they're short of money, they don't have tech people, the donors don't really like to spend money on tech. So what's happening is that if you've got 10 or 15 years of progress to look at, figuring out what will work in the nonprofit sector is a lot easier than figuring out how to make a mint in the net, at the leading edge of technology. And so I I do a new tech for good company every 3 or 4 years, or maybe every 2 or 3 years. I'm never inventing anything. I'm just hijacking something that the business sector figured out. Go, we got to take that to Zambia,
Yeah, yeah.
or we
You're
got to
like, let
take
me
that to
skin it,
disabled
and
kids, or hey, we could use that to help environmentalists. I mean, it's
I
all these
love it.
people that no venture capitalist ever said those things.
Oh my God, thank God you're doing that. So I guess I was going to ask you a question. I feel like I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Um, do you feel like AI is closing the dividends and are deepening them?
Um, the way we're approaching technology right now is, I think, deepening the divides overall,
Oh, okay.
right?
I
I
was guessing differently, but okay,
Yeah.
let's.
Now, I mean, the fact that we're making progress in a lot of places doesn't make up for the fact that the way that the tech industry and the innovation industry structured is breaking what I thought the old social bargain was. When I came into Silicon Valley, it was a long time ago. The idea was like, hey, you can get rich, but you've built something that helps society, helps people, right? The way that you make money is by creating value in society. And I think we have a generation of leaders in tech that are like, the goal of tech, my company, is to make the maximum money possible. And if I can externalize all the bad impacts on teen mental health, or lack of clean water, or sucking up all the energy, or cause climate change, I don't pay for that, so I don't care. And what happens? Well, the gap between the people who have and the people who do not has been widening. And what are we have the giving pledge. Oh, great! Billionaires are going to give away the majority of their wealth before they die. And like almost everyone who's taken the giving pledge has given away a lot of money, and they're all wealthier now than they were when they started. And like, what's wrong with this picture? And so I'm worried about this, and I'm worried about the kind of language that's coming out of some of our tech leaders, which is that most of humanity is disposable, that they don't really count. And that kind of, I find that offensive. But right now it's hard to be a tech leader and walk away from maximum exploitation because people are getting away with it.
Yeah, there's really like a confusing, I guess, value system on some of this stuff. I mean, I feel like I didn't always fully believe it, but like maximizing shareholder value and everything. But like, call it what it is. It is that, and it would be wonderful, and I'm sure there are people doing it, but with a different kind of investment strategy. I don't know. I feel like some people also have really good PR teams. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah, greenwashing is still a thing, but I do find, and I'm going to name a group of companies,
go
um,
name it, do
and
it. Yes.
yeah, and they're good, right? And this was inspired by like the Jeff Skoll, right? Gives the big award in the field, was the number two guy at eBay, along with Piero Midyar. They made a lot of money. And by and large, eBay actually helped an awful lot of people make livings. Now, over so eBay was actually an example of something. They gave a lot of their stock before they went public to a foundation.
Oh,
Now there's a group of companies called the Pledge 1% companies that while they're startups, they pledge 1% of their stock, 1% of their profits, 1% of their product, and 1% of their employee team time to social good. And you know what? I find the Pledge 1% companies generally they actually think that being good in that way helps them recruit people, helps them with their organizational culture. I've heard CEOs of these companies talk about how they think this is a really important part of their corporate culture. And
it's
you know what?
great. It's ingrained in it, and I love it that
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
made. Oh gosh, because this is, can I tell you, I've had plenty of
yeah.
conversations with various different leaders. This might be one of the first times, because this is exact. I've been struggling with like, we talk about culture, we talk about leadership and everything, and then there's a question like, how do you like actually implement these things as part of like, the core of the organization's kind of living, breathing culture and everything. And this is probably one of the first times, like aside from like some like lofty idea, like some like ambiguous thing where it's like it's clear, it's deliberate, and it's actionable.
And when you're a small company, it's an easy bet to take
Yeah.
because your investors aren't saying that 1% is worth $500 million. Why are you giving away? That 1% is worth, I don't know, not that much. And
Yeah.
so people like buy in early and then surprise, 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, and suddenly they're giving away $10 million. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
And I bet they're like, oh, that kind of hurts a little bit when you see that line
No, no,
item and
because it's
everything. But
already
it's
they
like it's
already gave it
also,
away. And
yeah,
and
yeah.
one of the great things about our tax code is when you give something away to charity, their takebacks are not a thing. Thank God we actually have a law around that one.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Here and so we are kind of wrapping up, getting to the end. So I do want to encourage anybody that's on live, please add any final questions that you have to the chat. Anybody that catches the recording, I'll definitely make sure I'll keep an eye out for the chat. If anything, respond to any questions or tag Jim in on it.
Yep.
Um, uh, how do we measure success, and what does AI for good look like in practice?
I think it's more people helped better, more cost effectively. And guess what? That's the case for technology
Yeah.
generally. So AI is just normal technology. That's actually the name of a paper from earlier this year of is the latest thing of AI just normal technology? Yeah. The laws of gravity still apply. Human beings, a crappy product is still going to be a crappy product, even if it's got AI in it, right? And so it's like AI is normal technology as opposed to as AI as miracle technology. We'll solve all of our problems with a magic wand. I mean, I love it, but it's not that good. And so
Yeah.
so we just hold to the same kind of set of standards that we always do with technology is, if I spend $1 million on a big Gen AI pilot and I save $50,000 a year, bad deal.
Yeah.
And I know people who've done that, who've dropped $1 million on a Gen AI project and it wasn't usable. And wow, what could you have spent that $1 million of philanthropic money on instead of a bad AI pilot? So we have to hold it to the same kind of standards of, is this the highest and best use of our philanthropic dollars, which are limited? If it is, go for it.
Gosh, I'm just, I have a few friends that have philanthropies, and I'm like, my head's buzzing around, like, oh, there's like so many opportunities, like, do or don't do some of these things. But otherwise, I'm like, go follow Jim Fruchterman's lead and like see what
Well,
he does
well,
or
and
recommends.
it's not just my lead. I mean, one of the things is that as I was going around and talking to people, in doing the book, there are hundreds of nonprofits doing amazing things with technology. That still represents 1 or 2% of the nonprofits in the world, right? But there's more and more of these great folks. And my podcast is interviewing the heads of nonprofit tech companies about what makes them so cool because they often won't talk about it, but I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what makes them so cool because everybody could be learning from these great leaders who have figured out how to apply AI to domestic violence in Mexico or educating kids in India or feeding people in Africa. I mean, these applications are all over the place if you look.
Yeah.
And anyone who's doing anything in these fields will be able to go out and say, oh, I want to copy that. I want to apply what Kenya did. I want to do that in Zimbabwe or whatever it might be. So I don't know. I just, I'm more, talking to all these people makes me excited. And there's a lot of common threads that are just about good product design, focusing on the user,
Hmm.
measuring your impact, trying things and doing less of what doesn't work and a lot more of what does work.
Yeah. I get a little bit of MVP and lean startup methodology from like kind of what you're saying. You're like, hey, some of these models are already baked in, if anything, and it's like it's lift and shift, skin it with something else, like put the guardrails in, but ultimately, like the 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 framework is there to serve humanity at large scale. And I think from a public policy standpoint, one of my friends who works in this space, she's like you judge a country how they treat like their ill, their elderly, and their young. And I
Yep.
think like so much can be done.
Yeah, and one of the things that, there's so much we can learn from the tech industry that they did well. Agile, human-centered design, lean. They're all jargon terms, but they work. And if I was designing a tech product for the nonprofit sector or a new program for the nonprofit sector, I would use the same principles.
Yeah.
What's your theory of why this is going to be better? Test it with real humans, because if real humans don't often do what you think they should do, they do what they actually do. And okay, pay attention to that. And
Yeah.
so those are the good parts. The relentless search of focus on wealth, maybe not so much that part.
But you know what though too, like a nonprofit can still make money and serve it's like I don't know, it just has a different like mission at the end of the day. But it's like, hey, I'd love to. Uh, it'd be a problem if I wouldn't fully understand if we had $1 billion nonprofit. But if a nonprofit is like pulling in so much money and then delivering so much good, I mean, Gates Foundation, I don't actually, they are a nonprofit, but it's like the amount of money redistribution and everything is fantastic. I'm like, do more of that.
Well,
Um,
and I think tech for good has the benefits that tech has, which is there are margins if you can sell. And my goal for all our social enterprises, except in human rights where there is no money, is that the majority of their budget be coming in form of revenue. And where's our revenue coming from? It's coming from the US and Canada and Europe. Where's the majority of our users? Not in those countries. And that's okay, because technology gives you that ability to price differently based on capability. And our goal is to maximize social impact. And yeah, revenue is a big part of that in the tech field, even as a nonprofit. But if I was printing money, I'd probably take that money and plow it into doing even more good as
yeah.
opposed to lining the pockets of billionaire shareholders.
Yes, absolutely. Jim, we're pretty much at time. Is there anything that you would like to pitch or encourage people? Like, I would love to encourage people to go follow Jim on wherever you're listening to this, but we're on LinkedIn. So come find him on LinkedIn. He's posting things regularly. You mentioned your podcast, your book. You want to bring that up again?
Yeah, the book
Yeah.
and the website is fruchterman.org. So just my surname.org tells you about all the different places you can buy the book, including the ebook. And in less than a year, it goes open access. We're going to publish it for free for
Amazing.
the entire globe. Thank you, MIT Press, for being such a great publishing partner to allow me to do that. Because I'm kind of an open source guy, so it'd be off brand
Amazing.
to have a proprietary book. But just go out there. If you have an idea for how technology can actually help people at scale, and it may not make money, my biggest advice is don't stop. There's
Yeah.
plenty of ways to make a living doing good with tech, and this hopefully is the first book on how to not make money starting a tech company, but make it a big impact.
Yeah, but yeah, impact people. And actually, if I might add to that, I'm in the Caltech area, and I know that you had a panel or you're speaking there. So I want to encourage anybody. Jim's regularly speaking. Like you have regular speaking
Yeah.
engagements. I think I wasn't. It was going to be impossible. It was like on Monday. There's impossible for my life. But I was like, oh, I would have loved to go see you actually at Caltech. So I'd love to encourage people to actually go check out like your speaking engagements chance and see him in person as well.
Well, thank you. Caltech just released a video of that online, so people can find it. And next week, I'm going to be in Boston, and GBH, the big public media station there, is going to be streaming it live and putting it on YouTube. And so
Awesome.
yeah, I'm getting some exposure here, as the guy who set out to not make money and had
But
fun
you're
anyway.
no, this is great. I think this is also a great way to like head into like, I mean, it's early no well, mid-November, but it's like head into Thanksgiving and the holidays and everything, like more good, more sharing good, more doing good, more like, helping people. Let's do that. All right. Jim, don't hang up yet, but I'm gonna say bye to the audience. Thanks everybody for joining us.